Money is a story, but some stories are written for you. Others are written about you. Imagine waking up in a world where nothing you see belongs to you. Your house, your car, your tools, your gadgets, they all belong to someone else. You do not own them, you lease them, rent them, borrow them. You have access, yes, but not control, not ownership. It sounds dystopian, absurd even, yet this is not fiction. It is a vision articulated openly by powerful global institutions, framed as convenience, sustainability, and progress. You'll own nothing and be happy, they say. A promise that masks a question few dare to ask: who will own everything else? Most people assume property, assets, and money are neutral, that ownership is a natural right, that your life's work translates directly into tangible control. The reality is different. The control of assets has always been a lever of power, and this new vision, this 2030 plan, is the latest, most audacious iteration of that logic. The 2030 plan didn't emerge overnight. It is the culmination of decades of policy, research, and global coordination. It was first articulated in strategic papers produced by think tanks, global councils, and international economic forums. These papers describe a future where access is prioritized over ownership. Digital infrastructure replaces private holdings. Smart contracts, subscription models, and centralized platforms replace individual autonomy. The historical pivot is subtle but profound. Ownership, once tied to physical assets, land, homes, and businesses, was a foundation of independence and influence. Throughout history, empires built their power by controlling land and the wealth that generated. Rome, Ming China, and the British Empire all understood that property equaled leverage. To own was to command. But in the 21st century, wealth begins to decouple from property. The rise of digital finance, globalized capital flows, and algorithmic management of resources reshapes the equation. Ownership is no longer just about possession, it's about control through networks. And the 2030 plan leverages that shift systematically. The system is deceptively simple. Physical assets are gradually digitized and pooled under centralized platforms. Houses become service agreements. Vehicles become subscriptions. Appliances and tools are rented on demand. The logic is efficiency, sustainability, and access. But beneath the surface lies a profound redistribution of agency. Control flows upward to those who operate the networks. You gain convenience, they gain leverage. This model is different from past economic shifts. In earlier times, concentration of wealth was visible and often brutal. Land seizures, inflation, and debt crises redistributed power. The process was tangible, immediate, and therefore politically accountable. The 2030 plan, by contrast, operates invisibly. It relies on digital oversight, algorithms, and social coordination. Redistribution is not through force or currency manipulation, it's through system design. The hidden cost is significant. Systems that centralize control for efficiency also centralize vulnerability. A platform that owns millions of homes or cars creates dependence on its operational integrity. Failures cascade quickly. A software breach, mismanaged database, or policy shift can instantly render households powerless. Whereas physical ownership dispersed risk, digital centralization concentrates it. The more convenient the system appears, the more precarious the underlying freedom. Modern parallels are everywhere. Look at corporate subscriptions that control energy, housing, and mobility. Consider how financial institutions leverage digital identity and credit systems to gatekeep access. Observe how data becomes property, and access to it determines who participates in the economy. The promise of ownership without burden is in practice the consolidation of influence in fewer hands. Yet the 2030 plan is framed positively. It promises sustainability, lower emissions, shared resources, and minimal waste. These are real benefits. The question is whose benefit comes first? The narrative favors global institutions and multinational corporations, not the individual user. Convenience is exchanged for autonomy. Efficiency is exchanged for independence. And the subtlety of this transition ensures few resist until the new norms are fully embedded.
The 2030 plan also illustrates a timeless truth about human systems. Design dictates outcome more than intent. It doesn't matter if participants consent or dissent. The architecture of the system channels behavior. Algorithms decide access, digital contracts enforce compliance, and centralized networks mediate the flow of goods. Ownership is transformed into a controlled privilege rather than a right. History offers warnings. Centralized systems that concentrate power without transparency often collapse or provoke upheaval. From the hyperinflation of Weimar Germany to the financial collapse of 2008, crises rarely come from outsiders. They emerge from the structure itself. Systems that promise stability while concentrating control are inherently fragile. Dependence and convenience create leverage for the elite, but also a vulnerability for everyone. Understanding this framework changes how we interpret current events. Corporate housing platforms, shared mobility networks, digital currencies, subscription-based utilities all are incremental steps towards a reality where physical ownership is rare and access is mediated. They are not isolated phenomena. They are test cases, microcosms of a larger design, rehearsals for a global architecture of control. Consider the implications. Financial literacy, once sufficient for independence, now competes with system literacy. Social and political influence can be subtly redirected through platform design. Credit, access, and digital identity become instruments of enforcement. Ownership transforms from a right into a conditional privilege, and freedom becomes contingent on compliance with system rules. Yet even as these changes unfold, the psychological effect is powerful. A society conditioned to accept access over ownership internalizes dependence as normal. Social norms shift before legislation catches up. Individuals adjust behavior, adapting to subscriptions, rentals, and cloud-based services as default. The flow of influence is imperceptible, and by the time the consequences are understood, the architecture is entrenched. Yet there is a human counterweight. Knowledge, transparency, and foresight are tools that can mitigate system risk. Just as historical actors learned to navigate shifting empires and currencies, citizens and organizations today can anticipate patterns, recognize dependencies, and claim autonomy within a designed system. Awareness is the first form of ownership. Understanding is the first safeguard. The forensic analysis of the 2030 plan reveals a profound paradox. Ownership is framed as optional, yet influence and power remain tightly controlled. Convenience is maximized, but freedom is minimized. Sustainability is promoted, but agency is redistributed. The system is elegant in its logic, but ruthless in its subtlety. Those who see the mechanisms early gain leverage. Those who do not are constrained by design. In the end, this is not about fear or conspiracy. It's about clarity. Economic systems are not neutral. Policies, platforms, and technologies are instruments that shape opportunity. What you own or don't own is not accidental. It is the output of choices made in boardrooms, councils, and design studios far above the individual. To live consciously in this world, one must understand architecture as well as currency. One must measure influence as carefully as income, because the tools of the 2030 plan will shape society long before most notice. The design of access and ownership will determine who thrives, who survives, and who remains perpetually dependent.
The lesson is profound. Ownership is no longer guaranteed. Autonomy is mediated. Access is conditional. But recognition of the system provides the first real control. Understanding how leverage, digital platforms, and global coordination reshape property and power equips the individual to navigate a world designed for others. By the time the physical assets are digitized, by the time the rental model becomes default, and by the time the access-first narrative dominates, the architecture will be set. And yet, clarity, foresight, and agency can still preserve freedom within constraints. Knowing the structure is knowing where leverage lies. Because in the economy of 2030, the measure of power is not how much you own, it is how well you understand who owns everything else. And once you see it, the patterns are undeniable. Ownership, influence, and freedom are not abstract ideals.
They are the product of design, timing, and control. The question is not if this world will arrive, it is whether you will understand it before it arrives and navigate it with eyes wide open. Because the truth is simple and stark. In the coming architecture of access, standing near the levers of control matters far more than holding any deed, any key, any asset. The rest are observers, renters, and participants in a system designed to favor the connected, the informed, and the first in line. And that is the forensic reality of the 2030 plan.